BIC episode number 69. Nice. Maybe that'll be the title. Maybe that's all it's going to be. But on this episode, it's basically just a mishmash of different topics. Like I said, the hobby folks have let us down to the point that I have had to go to other pastors and go to other genres and categories, possibly to troll, possibly to incur some anger, which I don't understand because, as we well know, that I am a man of peace. But we're going to find out about that. We're also going to find out about the latest in the Conor Bedard. We're going to look into some of the happenings and basically a mishmash of different things. That and more in this episode of the BIC podcast. See, this is what happens, Eric, when unfortunately our friends, I would never, because at the end of the day, they have never let me down. As always, I praise the content gods. But I got to tell you, the hobby folks have let us down. Kenny hasn't lit himself on fire. Nope. There's been a lot of letdowns lately to the point that I had no choice. I was duty bound to go to other pastures because I have the other YouTube channel for the Wrasslin. I went over there and I shared some feelings and some thought this weekend. This was Wrestlemania weekend. And I watched the WrestleManias, night 1 and night 2. And I shared some thoughts and feelings. And Eric, I don't think they felt my peacedom. As always, I approached it with the approach that I always take to everything. I come at it with peace, love, and tolerance, basically what I stand for. And I was not quite getting those vibes. It was not about the vibes. The vibes were not good, Eric. The vibes were a little harsh, a little hostile.
Bush tried to make a soft landing, weren't very direct. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. I tried to be nice, Brandon. I tried to be nice. All I said is that it might not be the greatest WrestleMania of all time. It might be a really weak rehash of WrestleMania 30. I'm just saying that there was a lot of lame garbage that was a waste of time. But apparently that is the minority opinion, and some people were not pleased.
I'm not the Wrasslin fan as you. I used to be, but not now. I saw some things on the interwebs saying that it wasn't just one place or one person. We're talking many different sites and Instagrams and all sorts of face spaces and things like that, claiming that this is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Bumping WrestleMania, I think 17 down to second, and WrestleMania 3 down to third. And this is the greatest of all time. And this is the biggest. This is the comeback, the relaunching of WWE. And this is the greatest thing since peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
And I got those feelings. I got those vibes. And I got to be honest with you. Again, in the spirit of much love, in the spirit of man of peace. They're all wrong and they're idiots.
Again, not a huge fan of the wrestling. Saw only a couple of little teeny tiny clips of the wrestling this weekend. And I have to agree because even in the very little teeny tiny clips that I saw, I watched a 187-year-old John Cena attempt to run down the ramp to the ring. My odds-on favorite bet was he was not going to make it all the way there. Left his hair in the dressing room, from what I could tell, because I did not know that he's bald.
Oh, no, he's had that bald spot now for a little while. Yeah.
It's quite pronounced. So watching this old man try to run and almost not make it to the ring was something.
To be clear, though, he's great in Peacemaker. I think Peacemaker's a lot of fun.
Okay.
He's very good in Peacemaker.
I have not seen that, except I saw the movie. I saw him in Suicide Squad, but the
TV show's way better. TV show's way better.
Not seen the TV show. I watched a 400-year-old Undertaker try to choke slam The Rock and lifted him off the ground about that much. And if Rock didn't sell it so well and kick his legs out, the gag wouldn't have gone off.
The Undertaker was busy. They called him at the last possible minute. He was in a black hoodie. He was
Yep.
just there. He was out to go rob a liquor store, and then they distracted him and go, "Hey, can you do a thing at WrestleMania?" But I have an appointment. Like, all right, fine. I'll quickly do the thing, and then I'll go back to what I was doing. So he took a moment out of his busy schedule
of
to
being
go take care of it.
badass. Yes, he was off doing American badassery, and he was busy doing that. And they were like, "Hey, do they call them take or do they call them undies? What do they call them? Like behind the
Oh,
scenes?"
if they called him undies, that would be a great conversation. Brandon, I would love to be in a great conversation where you
They're
call
like,
a man that tall and that old undies.
yeah, hey, undies, are you available? Can you make a quick appearance? You're just going to you don't even have to come down the ramp. You're just going to appear. You gotta make a face like you're pushing out a really really hard poop, and then you're going to attempt to choke slam.
And you're going to be incurring the wrath of some of the not men of peace.
And then The Rock, thank God, is an actor now in Hollywood, and he can sell it, because he lifted him off the ground maybe about that much. And then there's the whole thing with when Cena finally gets to the ring. I'm backtracking, and he has to clothesline get some bum out of the ring.
Solo Sikoa. He's one of the 1,018,000 members of the extended Samoan family.
So that gag went wrong because he wasn't facing the right way, and he hit him wrong, and he kind of pulled it, and it you could tell that the gag went wrong, right? So that was a disaster.
So to fill in the blanks on this, I'm going to reiterate: Solo Sikoa turned his back to John Cena. John Cena's clothesline, I think, was fine, and under normal circumstances, it works the way it's supposed to. But I don't know why Solo Sikoa felt the need to turn his back on him in order to try. Maybe he felt more comfortable going over the top rope, facing forward, which hey, that's your prerogative. Hey, but then your timing better be spot on. Your timing better be spot on, otherwise it's not going to work.
Right. No, he didn't sell it. So he screwed it up. It looked horrible. It looked like garbage. If it was like a movie, they would say cut. Let's redo that one. All right. That you'd get a second take for that one. It was really
But the
really
important thing, Eric, is that they tried hard and the kids had fun.
And then just and again, I've only watched a very teeny tiny clip, and this is my feedback. The thing that I really am getting from all the comments on these face spaces and the Instagrams and the interwebs, is this is the greatest WrestleMania of all time, and it is a resurgence. And this is the next step in WWE entertainment. And I want to stop these people and go, you realize that to make this resurgence and bring it to the next step, they had to dust off the coffins of a bunch of 50-something-year-olds who are physically broken down and can barely walk to the ring. Those are your saviors? This makes no sense to me. So I think your comment of them being foolish, to say it slightly kinder, is quite accurate.
Yeah, and I stand by what I said, but I will give a little bit of context and add some flavor to it. I understand that the idea of all the cameos was to make it a passing of the torch thing. I got the symbolicness of it. I did. I understood the symbolicness they were going for. I still didn't buy into it because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, you're all full of shit. But I understood what they were going for. I got the idea. I got the premise they were shooting for. I think it ended up being a convoluted, overbooked mess. That was my opinion, obviously, shared by very few, just throwing it out there. But I stand by it because for me, it didn't work. However, caveat as well, entertainment's subjective. Entertainment is 100% subjective. What works for you may not work for me. What may work for me may not work for you. So I understood that going in. And I may have, twisted the knife and poked a little bit. As I said, Eric, I was really bored. So when I get really bored, man of peace or not, I do occasionally like to do this and just go poke, poke, poke. And I may have elicited a reaction.
I never knew this about you.
I know. I was as shocked as you are. Again, as a man of peace, like, Brandon, this is truly out of character for me. I've never been known to stir the pot, and I was deeply disturbed by my own behavior. It was reprehensible, and I am very, very sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, extremely, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart.
Very sorry.
But you know what I'm not sorry about? I'm not sorry about AMG Collectibles. I'm not sorry about AMGcollectibles.ca. And I'm not sorry about the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel and the podcast, which will be coming up hours from the time that you see this one drop, because we've got some things coming up. This stuff that came in the shop. We're going to have the card show that's going to be coming up as well, because it's different timing because of the holiday. Well, so actually, sorry, this time around, it's going to be the Spring Expo. That's going to shift it up. So it's going to move up into a different week. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit in the next one. And I have seen some of the items that are going to be new in the shop. We are going to get some Connor Bedard, and we're going to move on to that in a couple of minutes here. But there is some of the new Connor Bedard for some of the new products as well. So there's been some very fancy Connor Bedard pulls that's been coming out of some of the new products. So you're definitely going to get a chance to see some of that on the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, amgcollectibles.ca. We thank AMG Collectibles for supporting the channel, the podcast, and we appreciate them. We are not sorry at all for that either.
Not sorry at all for that. Now, we used to be sorry, but they had a management change. And we are big supporters of the new management, and are proud to have them sponsoring the show, and thankful. And we want everyone to go online and use their services in any way possible, because especially under this new management, they're just phenomenal. Can't say enough positive things about the new management at AMG Collectibles.
There you go. And to put a button on the Wrestlemania talk, because I know most of you are not too interested in that, I did put it on the wrestling YouTube channel. It is in its own. There's a reason I put it in its own place. That way, the vitriol and anger. By the way, just one quick side point as well. Look, we talk about how whiny the sports card folks are. They got nothing on the wrestling guys. When you get them riling, oh my God. It's like you're throwing kerosene, gasoline, explosives, TNT, whatever. Smallest thing, just explodes. It's madness. It was hysterical, but it's madness. Again, though, metapiece. To be clear,
I mean,
I think some stuff is real.
It's real to them. Damn it!
It sure is.
It's I don't follow it, but the details and the vision I get from the stories and hearing about it, it kind of sounds like a male soap opera.
That's so two things. That's been the old analogy they use. But I always found it so. Brandon, let me just throw this in real quick. I've always found it. I don't understand why anybody needs to come up with a complicated descriptor. It's not even. You don't even need that. That's not even required. It's not that complicated. I've always laughed because they're like, I watch some of the other fans try to explain professional wrestling is not that hard to explain. It's a stage show that's televised.
Oh,
if you went to go watch a stage show and they put it on TV, that's all. What do you think? What's the difference?
No, I'm talking more of take the I remember, growing up. I'm sure we're all similar age. You remember the elderly ladies and probably 40 to 70 who would watch their daytime Days of Our Lives and the soap operas, and it was all about the drama of them and all of this. And then you're explaining how the Wrasslin viewers are all uptight about your opinion and very protective over it and everything, and it kind of reminds and sounds like the same thing. It's like. And you even have the Days of Our Lives and Guiding Light and everything else, and there's WWE, AEW, and it's kind of like the same thing.
But it's also kind of the same as every other TV show, Brandon. Like if you talk to somebody who loves The Walking Dead, what do you think the difference is? No, but I get it. But you talk to somebody who's imagine for a sec, just to keep it simple. Imagine you got somebody who's a huge Walking Dead fan, and there are people that are huge Walking Dead fans, and they even had that they even had folks that they even had the little post game show, The Talking Dead. Like they would do the thing where they would have the episode, and then you would have a follow up show where they would discuss the episode they just watched and what they think and all the things. It's the same shit. It's the exact same thing. Like there is, but now imagine somebody comes in and says, "Oh, this is a trash show," and then they pick apart all the little things. Then some people are some of those folks may get upset.
Exactly, because some people take it too seriously as a part of their life.
Yes,
That was
yes.
my point behind it too, like why I was
Yeah.
comparing them, because
Yeah.
I watched all the spinoffs and everything else, but it doesn't consume my life. Like if
It's a TV
somebody
show.
gets
At
killed
the,
off the
but
show, yeah, it's just
it's a TV show.
pure entertainment. It's not like it doesn't affect my life.
Yeah.
Like,
And just to complete this analogy though, it is a TV show. It should not be taken that seriously. I may have had a little bit of fun stirring the pot, allegedly. Maybe. Just a little bit, maybe. But the point is this. Part of the reason that I stirred the pot the way I did, and to extend this analogy out, I was a longtime viewer of the said show, and they killed off my favorite characters, and the storylines are derivative of something I've already seen. So I feel I can be quite critical of it because I actually like the show better with these characters and with this storyline, because the current version of it, the current characters are kind of lame. And that's basically my take. I just look at it going like, I liked it better with this set of characters. I liked it better with this cast, and I liked it better when this is the direction the storylines took. And now obviously we're to point out, Eric, I think part of the reason that some of these folks talked about as the greatest WrestleMania of all time and all this stuff is actually a little bit of retroactive wishful thinking. And I'll tell you why. This is the first WrestleMania that has no influence, no input, and no contact with Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
This is the very first time since the first WrestleMania that the only McMahon involved was his daughter, who's married to Paul Levesque Triple H, who is now in charge of the overall creative vision. And the entire show was bookended from very first night, him appearing, and then his wife appeared at the beginning of night 2, and then it was bookended with the new world champion, new this, new that. You're going to start the next run now. They basically do a reset with this new champion and all this new stuff. And then they had him come out and basically take a bow with everybody else. So now this is the Paul Levesque era. So basically, they're basically saying, we're going to pretend Vince McMahon never existed, even though he was here for the duration of the entire time.
Triple H came out?
Absolutely. He came out in the context of basically being an MC to begin the show, and then at the very end to kind of take a bow with the wrestlers and everything. His involvement was not from a storyline standpoint. His involvement was, I will come in to introduce and say hello to everybody to start the show. And then at the very end of the show, when we're going off the air and everything, he basically is there effectively to take a bow with everybody else.
Did he play Motorhead?
I think they did when he first came out, yes. He basically walked through the ring in his suit with Motorhead, yes.
Love Motorhead.
Yeah.
Love me some Lemmy.
So you did get that. And like I said, he bookended the show. He first walked out at the beginning of the show, and he was out there at the end of the show. And this was supposed to be his first, because this is his first WrestleMania where he's 100% fully in charge of all the creative. So every decision made going forward is now under his office, his purview. That's the reset they're talking about. That's the new era they're referring to.
Well, I have to say it the silly way first because my brain tells me I have to, but then I'll ask the second question. Who owns the Chiefs? Who owns WWE now? If McMahon is completely out, who owns it?
It's an organization called TKO, which also owns the UFC. So now they're part of a larger conglomerate. Vince McMahon basically was ousted. He became a minority shareholder, but he also sold and made a lot of money. And he's got his own issues now. So he's made his money, but they basically said, effectively, get the fuck out.
Right. So zero, not $1 worth invested, zero.
I think he still has some shares, but he has no control. He basically has shares and he can sell shares to generate revenue if he needs to, but he's a shareholder who does not have any power.
But Triple H has a boss. Stephanie has a boss. They're not really in charge.
Well, they're in charge of the WWE division, so to speak.
Yeah, well, right. They're the general manager, but they're not in charge. An owner can come down and go, no.
Yeah, but the owner in question was the one that put them in that position, because basically the lead guy is Nick Khan. Nick Khan was the guy who was brought in to usher in this and also facilitate the sale. So without getting too much inside baseball, Nick Khan is effectively the deal maker who got all the pieces put together. And his job is basically to help with all the deals. He's a deal maker. That's his business. So basically he said, Dana White, you keep running UFC, you do your deal. And then, Paul Levesque, Triple H, I want you overseeing, this is your area. You oversee this, you run it. At the end of the day, creatively, he has complete say with what he wants to do, because Nick Khan isn't a wrestling guy. That's not his business. He goes, my job is to oversee the business. My job is to make sure business is good. You make money, do whatever you need. You need some budget for something? Yeah, fine, I'll sign off on it. That's effectively his job. His job is to make deals. and that he was part of the Netflix deal that they got, that big mega deal with Netflix and all. That's Nick Khan. That's his business.
Okay.
So that'll be the new. So that's why I say it is a new era, because now it's under this conglomerate ownership that has all these properties underneath it. It's got Nick Khan operating a chunk of it. You know, Paul Levesque's operating a chunk of it. Dana White's got his business going on with the UFC, but it's all under this TKO umbrella. And The Rock is on the board of directors. He's part of the business side of it now. That's why he came back, and like he's very much involved now in the business side of it, because he has literally a seat at the table.
Did he invest money? Is he part owner of TKO, or did they just give him a chair at the table?
My understanding is that he has some ownership, and he also got complete rights to The Rock name, brand, trademark, and everything, so that he can do with it as he will. He already had a lot of control over it, but like he has complete control.
Well, if you
over
know
The Rock,
and for years, if he like what event, might have been a Super Bowl or some big thing, and they had him come out and like he couldn't say certain things. You know, you couldn't say, you know, do you smell what The Rock is cooking, and you know, and amp the crowd up and stuff, because
owns it all. Owns it all. Part of the deal is he owns that character, lock, stock, and barrel.
So now he can go and he can show up some places, Dwayne Johnson, and if he wants to go into character or say a catchphrase, he can do that now, where before he couldn't.
Yep.
Good for him.
So part of that deal was he's got an ownership, he's got a seat at the table, he gets to participate in the business side of it, and which could be very lucrative, especially with the amount of deals they've got going on. And then on top of everything else, yeah, that was part of what I think what motivated him to come in as a character and do some business, because he can help his own business as he participates in it. He's also, you know, basically lining his own pockets at the exact same time.
Good enough. He's still in good enough shape, you know, but I would think that he's like in movie shape. Like he goes to the gym and lifts.
Yep.
So he's good in front of a camera. I question what kind of shape he's in to take bumps and stamina and cardio, and you know, we all know he goes to the gym. He does biceps every day, and we know
he has a gym at his ranch.
So
like full-fledged.
I don't want to spend too much time on this side of it, because I could, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. So just to make a long story short, specifically for this, he had like an 8 or 12 week training camp with multiple rings. He was training as a wrestler in rings specifically, and he had guys come in to help him to get him back in the timing, because for wrestling it's timing. You got to be in a ring and actually be able to move around. I can tell you that he did wrestle on night 1 of Wrestlemania, and I can tell you that he acquitted himself very well, because he didn't try to be exactly what he was before. He did a lot of his signature moves, but he also, given that he's bigger, he played into the power side of it. He basically moved slower, but he moved in an intelligent way that made sense given how big he is. He took advantage of the fact that he's gigantic, and he goes and he pulls power moves. And that's basically what he was doing. He was more athletic in his younger days, but he was also leaner. Now he's bigger. He's physically larger. So he looks imposing beside everybody else. So he took advantage of that. He did, you know, his punches. He did his power moves. He still did the people's elbow. He still did the rock bottom. He did all the things he's known to do, but he timed himself well. He didn't try to run around the ring and do a bunch of things. Every move was calculated and carefully structured so that he was able to look good, and he didn't gas himself. He only spent the amount of time in the ring that he needed to. It was a very smart game plan. And I did give him credit in my review. I gave him the credit. I go, he executed an almost perfect match for where he's at in his life. So credit to them for that. Everything else I had problems with, but that specific thing, I gave him props, because it was almost a perfect game plan executed brilliantly.
So I'm not the biggest in the wrestling scene fan, but
well,
I think this might have a tiny connection to the wrestling.
No, I know it's not Friday, but come on. Hold up. If you're going to try to talk intelligent, can you say the word correctly?
No.
If you're going to be part of the conversation, it's wrestling.
I'm not being a part of this.
You're from the South, man.
To get away from it.
Wrestling.
But no, I don't know if you guys have checked it out, but I think it's connected to your wrestling and maybe even The Rock and maybe even a little bit of McMahon history to it. Have you guys watched any of the UFL? Have you caught?
So I know, game? So The Rock is associated with the UFL. Another one of his business ventures. To his credit, like the dude is making business moves. He's making a lot of money moves. This is just one of many business ventures he's taken under.
So I was chilling at the hotel or the resort, whatever the hell you want to call it. And I was actually trying to find one of the NCAA games, but the TV sucked. And I couldn't figure out the channels. It didn't have the guide thing. So I was having to flip channel by channel. And I came across a UFL game. And I have to say, it's kind of intriguing. I actually, if I wasn't so tired, I would have stayed up and watched the full game. And it was entertaining, even though it didn't have your NFL high profile names and star players and all that of the game. I liked some of the rules they had, and it will be interesting to see if the NFL may look at some of how they're doing things and kind of piece part of it out to toss over to the NFL, because there was some parts to it that I thought was pretty cool. They have ways set up to where, like, and I don't remember all the ins and outs, so don't quote me on it, but there was like a team that was down big in the fourth quarter, and they were able to come back because of one of the, you can like, there's no extra points. You go for like, was it like 2, 3, or 4, something like that. But you run a play from, and it depends on which yardage. And then you can go for like a 4th and 13 or something like that. And if you get the ball, or if you make the play instead of an onside kick, you keep the ball. So it like enables teams to, instead of the odds on an onside kick, it's like a 4th and long play, and you can try that. And if you make it, you retain the ball. And like, I guess Saturday, a team came back from a pretty big deficit and wound up winning the game. And I thought, that's pretty damn cool, because it means that nobody's ever actually out of a game. If the ref misses a call and the coach feels like there should have been a penalty flag thrown, they can throw the challenge flag and get the ref to call whatever, like New York, like in the NFL or whatever, and review the play and actually see if it should have been a flag called. I thought there were some pretty cool elements to it. So it'll be interesting to see. It's only an 8-team league, and no star players or whatever, but there was some aspects to it that I thought were pretty interesting.
I think when it comes to a league like that, I think the only thing that matters really is, can they build up storylines? Speaking of storylines and the concept of it, sports have storylines too. It's narratives, right? If you can get engaged in certain athletes, then that can work really well in your favor. And I was scanning while you were mentioning it. They were able to draw over 1 million viewers for some of those games, for some of those early games, which is pretty good. Like, especially for a secondary league during the off season of the NFL, that's pretty solid numbers, especially in the middle of March Madness. Like, that's anything you're getting over 1 million viewers, even for a couple of games, that's strong. That's a good performance.
The St. Louis Battlehawks, which was the game I was watching, it was the Battlehawks St. Louis versus Arlington Renegades, which they had really cool uniforms. I don't know about the team names; they're kind of generic, but they actually broke the attendance record. So it shows that apparently there has been a little bit of increased interest, maybe, but obviously for the areas that the teams are in. But they had, and it's not like NFL size, but 40,000 showed up for a game in St. Louis. So, I mean, that's not small change. It's probably beating what MLB stadiums are bringing today. So, you kind of got to give them credit for that.
Well, I think this also played, so the St. Louis team. So if you remember, the UFL was like a merger between the USFL and the XFL. So what happened was the St. Louis was actually carryover. I forget. I want to say it was the XFL. I forget. But you had a St. Louis Battlehawks team in one of the leagues, and they was incorporated into this merged league. So they retained that franchise from that one, and it carried over.
So they actually kept the conferences named XFL Conference and USFL Conference.
Perfect. Okay, great. So I don't remember which one St. Louis is in.
It has St. Louis in the XFL.
Okay, then that sounds right. So I can tell you that some of the St. Louis games did pretty well attendance-wise previously, because obviously St. Louis was a specific choice, because when they lost the Rams, St. Louis hasn't had a professional football in the same way. So they were trying to take advantage of the fact that these were some markets that didn't have a team, or had a team in the past, but maybe there were some fans in St. Louis who were like, "Oh, well, it's a professional team, and we'll go out and support it." And I think in the back of their minds, I guess maybe they're hoping that someday maybe the NFL could come back, but it's one of those things where I doubt it at this point. Well, you never know though with the NFL. But at the same time, when they lost that team, it was kind of an opportunity for a different team to come in and kind of get a little bit of a niche. And guess what? I don't. My take on a lot of these leagues, I don't care as long as the games are fun to watch. I'm okay with it because you're getting players that are equivalent talent playing with each other, so it's fair. It's not like it's this wacky. Is the product entertaining? That's the only question I have. And if the answer is yes, I'm still interested.
That's why I brought it up, because, you know, I was flipping through and I just happened to catch it on, and I sat and watched it for a bit, and the rules, like some of the aspects that they've put into that game to kind of keep it entertaining was what I found intriguing of it. And there is some players, you know, like I can't remember which team. I think it might have been Arlington. AJ McCarron, and I mentioned it in the Discord. I actually gained some respect for him because they were telling the story of him. He was in the NFL. He was the backup for the Bengals to Joe Burrow, and he actually asked the Bengals to release him. He said that although the NFL is a very lucrative, you know, contract for being a backup quarterback, he enjoys playing the game of football, and he wanted to actually play instead of being on the sideline. So he asked the Bengals to let him go so he could go join the UFL and get a starting gig with the team there. And, you know, I that's a lot of respect. I mean, dude could have sat there with a clipboard and made a boatload of money, but he actually wanted to play and kind of earn his contract. So it was kind of cool hearing that story. And believe it or not, you know, again, the entertainment aspect, even though it wasn't, you know, top tier named guys, the quarterbacks and stuff were putting the ball on point, you know, accurate passes and stuff. Obviously, you got lesser ranked defenses as well, but it was entertaining. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And I think the guys like that, though, are going to be what's going to help make or break that league. Because if you've got players like that that are looking for just an opportunity to start, but also let's not forget for a moment, if he stands out and has some great tape, there's the NFL is there are a bunch of teams that are always looking for a quarterback.
Calling back up,
so just put some game tape together of you performing and actually playing in real games. It could be beneficial to you. Like it's also probably a calculated move. On the one hand, you get to play, but on the other hand, you get real game tape, live game tape that they can go back. And if they see something, they're like, okay, you know what? This guy's making some throws. They look on point. Bring him in for a training camp. And then all of a sudden you get a chance to maybe earn yourself a job. Maybe you get a shot because there's some teams. Look, there's some quarterbacks that'll go to 2, 3, 4 teams. They'll get a couple of kicks at it. Why not? Take a chance on yourself. And in worst case scenario, you end up as a backup again and then collect some money at the end of your career, whatever. But in the meantime, if you'd like to start, maybe going to a league and actually trying to start and showing it that you can still play instead of holding a clipboard, maybe gives you a shot.
Yeah, there's teams like the Patriots might want you.
There we live the dream. Dare we live the dream. Facts. Under Coach Mayo, exciting. Very exciting. Eric, that is his name. I don't know what you're shaking your head about. That is your coach. Respect, coach. All right. So real quick. So I want to thank you for the segue to get us out of that one. Now let's talk about, by the way, indicative of the entire first segment and a half is just how dry it's been in the sports card landscape. Like I said, between me getting bored and pissing off some people in another genre just to keep myself amused.
Dude, how boring it's been. This is the shit that Topps is coming up with. I mean,
oh, they got an Eclipse?
Nice. They literally made a freaking Eclipse card. And my biggest laugh at, first total eclipse graces North America since 2017. Holy shit.
I know.
Since 2017. Oh my God.
Brandon, that predates the existence of the hobby.
Oh,
the hobby didn't even start until like 2019.
It's true.
So like it's like prehistory. 2017, them the olden days.
That's true.
100 copies will be glow in the dark.
Okay, that's a good call though. I kind of like, look, if you're gonna do it, I kind of like that move. So kudos to them on that move. Okay. All right, Eric, are you ready for an actual sports card related topic? We can do a sports card related topic. We could try.
What the hell?
We could try one for size.
What the hell?
All right, let's talk about Eric's favorite company. Let's talk about Beckett. So
rumble. All right, go ahead.
So Beckett. So they've done a couple of things, and by that I mean they haven't done anything. The first thing they did was they announced that they had announcements. That's a real thing. Like, I'm not making that up. That's a real thing. Hey, we've got announced. Oh my God, you got fireworks! It's amazing.
I'm absolutely happy. That's perfect for what for Beckett's announcements. That is perfect. I don't know what just happened.
Brandon, I don't know what happened on that one, but that was the best one.
That was awesome.
He had a whole fireworks display behind him. It went dark. And look, you need the YouTube version for that one. Folks on the audio, go to the YouTube version and tune in to like 35, 36 minutes ish. You'll see it. Just go there. Go there. Sensational. A sight to behold. But anyway, all right. So first announcement.
I planned it because I didn't know it existed.
Mm-hmm. So first thing was Beckett announced that they had forthcoming announcements.
Yeah.
And then the first of the forthcoming announcements came, and this one I will link in the description for you so that you can see it for yourself. All right. First announcement came from this gentleman, this Beardo. So we got this Beardo here, and this is now, I guess, one of their greater guys or something. Like, I listen, man. I'm not worried about judging it. He's already the Beardo guy. So anyway, whatever. The point is, this dude here, basically, the upshot of this announcement was that they were discussing the original. Like, if you guys remember, maybe a year ago, there were a couple of different aborted attempts at making changes at Beckett. One of them was to do a new holder and a new label and all this stuff, and they got pushed back, so they canceled that. And then there was the thing where they were going to change the actual numbering system, and then make adjustments to the 9.5 and do a couple different things. And this is Dave Poole, BGS Director of Graders and Head Trainer. That's the title they've got here for him. Okay,
like in the gym.
I'm glad they had him throw a Beckett shirt on over top of the shirt that he wore that day, so we at least knew he was part of the company.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so this announcement is effectively that it's a grading scale announcement that they will not be changing the grading scale. Yes, we did it. We needed to announce that we changed nothing. Eric, we must announce that we have changed nothing
this week.
You know what I'm impressed with? This Instagram post probably has close to more likes than cards graded in a month. Maybe they're just like, are they monetized on Instagram? Maybe that's where they're making their money, getting these IG likes.
Our friend Lapper pretty much sums it up in the comments.
So I'm glad that you brought that up. So that was the first one here. So Lapper flips. He goes, "You have no support or trust." So summing up Eric's feelings and thoughts. And then we got Cage
Lawyer a few down from there.
So I'm going to read the Cage Lawyer one because I thought this was funny. So all right, I'm going to read the comment and then we're going to talk about it. So I do want to take a couple of minutes and talk about this briefly. So let's talk about this, okay? Mm-hmm. I had to have my fun making fun of it first. An announcement that we changed nothing. That is quite the announcement. Second, so let me read the Cage Lawyer comment. Pin this. This is the right move. Everything else is changing. PSA buying SGC, CGC dumbing down their scale. We need continuity. So CGC dumbing down their scale was the scale that SGC had, but whatever. We need continuity and the ability to understand why the card graded what it did. I'm going to stop it right there. Beckett continuity at this point is just sinking. You know what was continuity, Eric? The Titanic sinking. That was continuity. It continued to sink. It sank.
Never stopped.
Right into the ocean. Right into the ocean. That's continuity.
Yep.
No.
Right to the bottom. Didn't stop halfway. Went right to the bottom.
It had commitment. It wasn't a quitter. It went all the way to the bottom of the ocean.
Yes.
So anyway, so here it says, and the ability to understand why a card graded what it did. BGS subgrades do that. That's nice. But at this point, no one cares about subgrades. Genuinely, no one cares. Everybody that has a chance to do subgrades eventually ends up tossing them out. That is not a coincidence. No other legitimate grade companies had this because at this point, all the ones that tried it eventually dumped it because they didn't care.
Do you know what people use or want the BGS subgrades for? To figure out why in the hell it didn't get a 10 pristine So they know if it's like centering got a 9, they can crack the shit out and know it's got even a better chance to get a PSA or whoever else 10. Like, that's about it. Nobody cares.
They don't care about centering at PSA. 60-40, no problem. Perfect.
I just meant BGS in general.
I just saying, you know, I mean, because PSA doesn't have subgrades. It's got just like, you know, the numbers, you know, the basic number. They're number one, so obviously that's what people want. Okay, but it, you know, when Beckett is at least trying to do is to explain to you, you know, what's right and what's wrong with the card. And it just brings me back to the fact that at PSA, they will give you a gem mint card knowing that it's not centered.
I
Gem
personally
mint, gem mint. I understand the English language. Gem and mint mean something, and then you say, well, but it's not really gem mint.
But Eric, I've seen the reverse side of this. I've literally seen a card's life that went, and it was a thicker card, so that for context. But it started as a PSA 6, and PSA is tough on thicker cards. I personally cracked the card out of the slab it was in, evaluated it. It had a small, some surface issue in the little window for the patch. Sent it to SGC, and it got an 8, which, bearing the defect, was pretty decent. It then went to Beckett and became a 9.5, which is a gem mint with 10 for the surface subgrade. This wasn't a Kurtz card care fixable flaw, so I do not know how in the hell that was even possible. So,
yes, Eric. Yes, Eric.
Pick me! Pick me!
Yes, Eric. You may answer the question.
The answer to the question is grading is a scam. So if you go from a 6 to a 9.5, that proves that all grading is a scam. And that the fact that Beckett, who actually pays attention and grades centering, surface, corners, and
do they pay attention?
No.
Do we have to go back to the parable of Mickey Mantle and Sandy Koufax, who are the same guy?
Right,
just so we're all clear on
this. This is a sarcastic type rant at the moment.
Go on.
You know, because they pay attention of surface and corners and the whole and centering and the whole thing, and they give it a 9.5, which is their 10, because that makes sense. Because
this card, by the way, was a one of one that was sold in the range of, I don't remember if it was deep 5 figures or low 6 figures, but it was a pretty expensive ass card.
So I just want to finish. So the first reason is, again, grading's a scam. A card went from a 6 to a 9.5. Total scam. This whole thing is bullshit. Second, Beckett is the worst of the worst of the worst, because they're supposed to care and really measure and give you grades. And the fact that this thing is so banged up that another company gave it a 6 and they ended up giving it a 10, because that's what a 9.5 is in Beckett world, because that makes sense. So
and the flaw was the surface, and it got a surface 10 subgrade.
Right. So Beckett is complete trash. Okay, and Lapper summed that up perfectly in his comments. And grading is a complete utter scam. So thank you for calling on me, Professor Carlos. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time, class. Again, grading is a complete utter scam, 6 to a 9.5, and Beckett is complete garbage. Thank you very much.
And in that regard, I want to remind you that at Bobbles and Ball Cards, there's SGC submissions, and then also at the Spring Expo, you can submit your cards through PSA Canada grading. Thank you, Eric. Also, SGC 10 is 55-45 centering.
Mm-hmm.
Just letting you know. It is a stricter standard, but it's still not 50-50.
Standard.
All of the companies are.
Yeah, that's why they have a pristine. The pristine is the 50-50.
It makes no sense. Right. A 9.5 is a 10, but then you could have another 10 and then another 10 after that, because that all makes sense.
Well, by the way, to be clear, if we're all being 100% honest here, like in all seriousness, remember the second announcement was that Beckett is not changing the scale. One of the proposed changes to the scale was to basically remove the 9.5 and turn the 9.5 into a 10, because the 9.5 was effectively the 10 because it was supposed to be the gem mint. That's basically what CGC did. CGC removed the 9.5 and turned the 9.5s into 10s. If it was a 9.5 gem mint, it could be converted over into a 10. I've taken advantage of that through ComC. So I've done that before, switching 9.5 into 10. But because Beckett doesn't want to do that. Now, remember, we got the subgrades, right? The whole argument, the cage lawyer argument was that the subgrades are great. Well, just so we're clear, you could completely legitimately, 100% legitimately, with the current subgrade system, have a 9.5, which is a min gem, and one of your grades could be a 9, and it could still be a 9.5 if the other ones pull it up. If it kind of works out, it's not an average, but you can work it out in such a way where if the other subgrades are appropriate, you could have 9 centering, which could be worse than the one you're talking about, and it could be a Beckett 9.5, 100% under the rules, legitimately 100%.
So if I go like this,
alas, not so much.
Does the word Beckett just pop up on the screen?
The biggest thing, like screw the subgrades and all of that stuff, and the specs and all of that. Screw all of that.
I agree.
I don't understand how there is 2 pristines. Like, pristine is pristine. Like, that is the part of their company that I've always felt was absolutely stupid. Like, we're sitting here talking about 55-45 centering or 60-40 centering being gem mint. Okay, that's subjective and company standards. And the reason that PSA, I'm going to defend PSA for a second. The reason they have 60-40 is because they don't have the 9.5. If they had the Mint Plus, like SGC and CGC has, where there was a stricter strain on the scale, then I could see them being at 55-45. Since it goes from the 9 to the 10, that's why there's a 60-40 there. And it's the way they've done it. I don't expect them to change it because they've been doing it for what, 25 years now? 26
I think
years?
Beckett, I believe Beckett,
No,
so don't quote me on this. I believe Beckett
years.
started in 99. I believe Beckett started
No,
in
I'm
99.
talking PSA.
Right.
Oh, PSA started in 91. 91.
So 33 years they've went with that scale.
So you
don't change it, whatever. But why in the hell is there 2 pristine grades with Beckett? Pristine is the top level. How in the hell do you have another top level over top of the top level?
Spinal Tap.
Pristine.
Which part of Spinal Tap do we not understand? 11.
It's stupid. That is the dumbest grading scale in card grading. That is Eric's 100% scam right there, because the black label is complete horseshit. Go ahead.
Yes, Eric. Yes, Eric.
Okay. To answer your question, I will repeat the second part of my previous answer. Because Beckett is garbage. That's it. That's it. There's no more.
Oh, can I tell you what a mint 9 centering is for Beckett? Because again, you can have 9 centering and still get a 9.5.
And get a 7.2.
Is it 60-40?
Okay, so mint 9 centering. I had to go find, and by the way, Beckett's website is also trash.
Yeah,
so,
their scale is, their standards are hard as shit to find.
Exactly. But I was able to locate the grading scale. I was able to locate it. So from what I understand from this website, if I'm reading it correctly, you've got the sections, but then also each section underneath is actually the different parts. So I'm under the Mint 9. I'm looking at the centering piece alone. Mint 9 centering piece. It says 55-45 both ways on front, 70-30 or better on the back.
70-30?
On the back.
Or better.
I mean, I know that it happens.
Oh, thank you. I needed that.
But usually, isn't the card somewhat centered the same on the front and the back?
Awesome.
No,
That's
not
awesome.
necessarily. No, absolutely not.
I'm saying in most scenarios. I know in certain instances
I've seen some of,
and
there are some 80s sets and 80s cards where you can see nice centering on the front and the back is like, how the hell? What the
well,
hell?
I'm talking more today's shit because I mean, hell, where are we at? Is 80s stuff going to BVG yet? I mean,
so Brandon,
who the hell knows
give
what
you
their standards are?
I'll give you one example. Do you remember that Topps Platinum collection where they've done now a couple of years of them? The first one was the Topps Platinum collection where they did the 52 Topps. That was the design.
Yeah,
52 Topps design. I opened a box of that. Nice cards, by the way. I love the 52 set. I think there was need. They've got some legend players in as well, and like some fun. Like they got a Joe Carter card in there. They got a Delgado. Like for me, that's fun. For my collecting purposes.
I have some of the jockeys.
Yeah, I opened a box of it, and I swear to you, the absolute best centering that I saw inside of that box, a brand new at that moment product that I opened, had to be like 80-20 on the front. Like it was like borderline miscut out of the pack.
But the back was okay?
And the back on a bunch of them was fine. They didn't match. It wasn't even close to matching. That was like
I've
the
seen
back
a few here or there, but
it
seems like
it was a whole box.
It
was a whole box of them where it was out of whack completely. Or in some cases, the centering would be opposite. It'd be skewed one way on the front and skewed the other way on the back. And you'd be sitting there like, or it'd be like up and down on the back and then left to right on the front.
I wonder if those were layered.
It could be, but my point is
weren't centered. That
my point is whatever happened with the cutting, it was completely off. Like it was totally like it was borderline. It was pushing miscut. Like it was so bad. The center, and this is a new modernish product. It wasn't even close. It was heinous.
From now on, I will do the show like this because this is Gem Mint. This is 70-30. And this is Mint. And I want everyone to know this is Beckett Mint.
Honestly, I think it's an improvement. I feel like it has enhanced the presentation.
I gave you like 75 there. Hold on. There we go. That's 70-30.
Eric, we do have to like point out, it's kind of like in a playful way that we talk about your passion for Beckett, but you do have the B everywhere in your room, and you notice the guy's shirt. It was the gold and the black, and you have the black label, and you have the gold and all of that. The lettering, the font is in black, and the little foiled label is gold, and it kind of matches your whole room. And
can I bring?
We
so
feel
Brandon,
that there's a theme there.
Yeah, to your point, Brandon. Let me pose a little. Let me bring it full circle to kind of the discussion as we've had it throughout the course of the. Like I said, this was going to be more of a random topic episode, and we will finish on one more card related topic, I promise. But just making this point here, I spent that whole time explaining off the top how I was offending some of the Wrasslin folks by making them mad and criticizing, critiquing. But I have been a longtime fan and I've watched for a long time and I can critique it. However, remember they talked about this whole thing how this is a reset, and I explained why. I explained why it is a big change in the company and the way it's been structured and what they're doing. But I'm not a fan. I use that analogy about how they changed the main characters, they changed the storylines. I'm not a fan of what they're doing today. My response to this and the new reset, because I am not interested in the direction, I am not going to be watching the show going forward. I watched this Wrestlemania weekend because I had the thing available, I had it active, and I could watch it. And I also figured I'd make a video about it. I did. I made a couple of videos about it. I had a lot of fun making the videos and reading the reactions as they rolled in. But I have no incentive and no interest. Tonight, they're doing right now as we're doing it, a 3-hour Monday Night Raw. I have no interest in investing anywhere resembling that much of my time to watch a product I'm not interested in. So my thing is, I'm not going to invest my time in that, or my energy, or my money. That's how I'm going to vote for with my wallet and vote with my time. But you're also not going to see anything WWE related in pretty much my surroundings or anything like that. To your point, Eric secretly is like, at this point, I think subliminally, Eric has become, sympathetic to his captors. This could be a Stockholm thing. He has become what he's hated. He's surrounded by bees. Everywhere he looks, it's B. B for Beckett. It's supposed to be Boston. It's Beckett, isn't it? Isn't it, Eric?
I can only give you a 70% answer to that. No, 30% answer to that. No, 70%. No, 30%. No, now I'm confused.
Well, the good news, Eric, is that that's still a Beckett 9.5.
Yep.
As long as the surface is like a 10, and as long as we've got corners that are at least a 9.5, and edges, there is a 9.5. That is still a 9.5 gem end card.
I'm showing you right now. I'm Beckett mint right here.
I'm a big fan. You know what would be great? You know what would work out great in a Beckett slab though? A Reggie Lemon Kraken card. And I bet the centering is better than a mint 9. I'm not saying that because we are now inside of 24 hours for the end of the Kraken version. I'm not saying that for that reason.
You saw the Gremlin one or whatever the hell that was that I sent, right?
Yes. But I'm not saying that because I have on my watch list the Kraken version of that. I'm not saying it for that reason, Brandon. It is a complete coincidence.
You got $50 to burn on a joke.
Oh no, this is an auction. It's not $50 right now.
Okay.
It is $10.50 with 22 hours and counting.
Yeah, Kraken. I was thinking about the stupid leprechaun. Yeah, the Kraken is like $10. Yeah.
Right now it is $10.
No.
So you're watching it, Eric.
Yes, with great annoyance.
Have you happened to ask Reggie what influenced him to have these leaf cards made?
Money. They offered him money. They said, sign these stickers and we'll pay you. Sweet.
Yeah, that's it. They sent him a check and some stickers, and he signed the stickers and mailed them back.
Did he know there were going to be leprechauns involved?
No, but I am going to show him next time I see him. I'm like, I want you to know that this is what they're doing to you.
What if his response, just hypothetically, what if his response is, oh my God, this is better than I thought. I'm going to give him a sweet deal next time. More Kraken! What do you think, Eric?
I'd say that saying, never meet your heroes, makes a lot of sense.
Listen, how do you know that Reggie doesn't have a passion for the Kraken? He says, release the Kraken!
I'd be very disappointed in him.
This could be a great moment, Brandon. This could turn out to be an amazing moment and a sensational, glorious moment. And also indicative of just how slow the news cycle in sports cars is right now, where this is the conversation. Let me move on to a different item now.
Between now and Friday, I am going to take screenshots of those 3 cards with him on it. Get those photos to him, and I will try to get a reaction before Friday of what he has to say about his image being used and abused like that.
We're going to find out that he is actually the one trying to bid them all up. He goes, I will have them all. Yeah, they are glorious.
And then glorious. I will be selling my Reggie Lemlin collection. I don't know to who.
I'll open the bidding at $150 shipped.
I don't know who will buy it, but I'm selling it.
There you go. I like where this went. All right, let's move on here. We'll finish up. This is going to be, we'll finish up in a little over an hour. So anyway, let's talk a little briefly about Connor Bedard, since we've been kind of keeping tabs on how the pop counts have been going with some of the PSA 10s. So let's play a little game. We got off center Eric and we got regularly center Brandon. So here's my question to you. Young Gun, PSA 10 at this stage. I took the screenshot only before we started recording. So this is the latest that I got. So how many PSA 10s do we have at this point in time? We're starting to get waves. The first early ones already happened, but now a little bit more time has gone by. We've had a couple more weeks. So we're starting to add up some of these. So we're starting to get basically waves of them coming in. How many are we at this stage in time? Young Guns PSA 10.
Can't remember where we were at last week,
but I want to say it was like 700 and change, I believe, if memory serves me.
So in a week's time.
So yes, between last week and this week, I want to say it was like in the 700s, if memory serves me.
I believe
so that's
you
what
we're a week's time. PSA does about 250,000 plus a week.
Yep. And don't forget, some folks obviously will pay for faster service, but if you go in bulk, it's not.
I'm just going off their average per month and about how much of that would be Connor Bedard.
Yeah, and you also have to get 10s because you do have the edges.
Right.
So the gem rate's okay, but let's not pretend it's like 100% gem rate.
1,350.
Okay, 1,350. Eric, how many PSA 10s do we have another weekend?
15, 20.
Okay. So you guys are giving a little bit too much credit for the delay between levels, but it has increased. So right now it is at 1,045. So it has cleared the 1,000, but we're still waiting for a couple more waves. I expect in the next couple of weeks, we will start, as we get into the more bulk ones, I expect that number will increase higher because then it's going to be the volume is really going to start to kick in. There's plenty of them, I'm sure, currently in the system, but it's the getting that last glut because there's going to be some folks that probably send in a bunch, and if they have a stack of them, then that's going to move it up pretty quick.
I was accounting for some of the ones that were sent on a normal scale, plus some more that were expedited, maybe to mismatch it up a little bit. That's still, I mean, what were we at? About a month since release to hit 700, so it picked up pretty good there in a week.
Exactly.
Almost 400 in a week. So
yeah, and I expect there will be a couple more weeks here where we'll get hundreds at a time. But the point is now we have cleared 1,000. We have passed the 1,000 milestone officially in the PSA 10s and counting. So I expect that number to keep climbing, especially as we get the next waves. And then also when we get to Spring Expo, as I mentioned, I promise you a lot of Upper Deck products are going to get open in that room. So there are going to be some folks that are going to pull some Bedards and they're going to get submitted. I guarantee, because they're going to walk them right over to the PSA Canada booth and be like, send it in. I can promise you that. I'll be actually curious. If I get the chance, I'll ask Brad if they can kind of keep like a rough tally for me. I'd be curious how many Bedards get submitted inside of that show. They don't need to know the exact number, but if I can get a ballpark, if I get put it in their head to be like, just keep an eye. If you kind of have a vague notion of how many, I'd be curious how many people submit them.
Has I don't know if anybody knows or have heard how long or what is the expectation of EPAC starting to pop up too? Because that's going to throw a good bit there too.
So
I don't know how long it'll take ComC to get them to people, but
yeah, I can tell you based on the last couple of products that I've seen, it generally takes about 6 or 7 or 8 weeks, give or take, is kind of like the norm. But I can tell you the last, like I always mentioned the AEW product and everything. AEW Metal got there, and the product came out in November. So they literally just got there this past week. So it's like it's been a bit of a time delay. Like it's actually been a little bit slow getting it turned on and getting it over. I suspect the ComC processing delays may be playing a factor into that. Upper Deck themselves have also had some time delays on some of their stuff. Like, let's be fair about it. Like they've had time delays on their stuff too. So it could be a mix and match of the two. But it is taking a little longer than I expect. So I wouldn't expect EPAC to take in right away. I think it'll be a little slower than normal, but I don't think it'll be like crazy. I think by the summer we should have EPAC kicked in. But there's going to be a lot of it opened in the meantime. We're going to get that.
Did when you checked the pop report, was there anything there for that 101?
Not yet.
Because the bounty went away, but there's been no news of the 101.
I'll take a peek again here in a minute, but I hadn't seen anything, but I'll double check. I do have the Silver Outburst though. So I was curious if you guys wanted to take a stab at the Silver Outburst. Obviously, given the silver and everything, I mentioned that there was like a PSA 6. I can see that because honestly, there could be some chipping on that foil. Like there's different little defects that can kick into it. So I do have the number in front of me with the Silver Outburst. They are tougher to come by, but they do have the silver, so that can cause some condition issues. A 9 is actually a pretty good score with the Silver Outburst, but in terms of 10s.
116.
Okay, 116. What do you think? What do you think, Eric?
57.
You guys are giving it too much credit. 16. Yeah, the 16, right?
Holy hell.
Right now, there are 16.
That's the one people should chase then.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Right now, this is a very low pop one. It is a spicy meatball if you can get your hands on that one, because right now the pop is still very low on this one. Somewhere between the amount that have been submitted and the amount that are coming back, not a lot of 10s are coming out of that. So that one I think is going to hold some value for a little bit, just because the pop is still really low. So the people that are chasing are going to have to pay a pretty penny for those.
And if that silver is, looking back, I had mentioned that bounty thing, and looking back on that with the with that 9 stipulation in there, I don't know that it would get it. I mean,
it's possible. It's possible the caveat kicks in.
There's obviously some condition issues to that card, so
yeah, that's why I wouldn't consider it automatic. Yeah, that's why I would be like, just bear in mind that it might not be automatic, that somebody can do that. So it's like you have to bear that as part of the conversation, because you do have some condition sensitivity issues with that. So those are kind of our updates on the PSA 10s for those two. Something like I said, I'll check in on a week-to-week basis, and we'll kind of see what's going on with it, because I am curious, especially as those start getting loaded in and more people start sending it in. It's going to be very interesting to see how that piece plays out. So last one here that I'm going to talk about before we call it an evening is going to be our friends at Collect, the Darren Ravel venture. I'll give a little bit of an update. I'll include a link in the description for you. I am noticing they've started to populate some articles. It looks so far like they do have a bit of a mix and match, different things. Like just looking at it right now, they had an article related to someone who ended up with a Michael Jordan PMG, a red PMG. And they've got another one talk about the Mickey Mantle Type 1 photo that sold at auction for $843,000. Memorabilia thief details heists in 60 minutes interview. So there's a memorabilia section. And then there was the comic book. There was an Action Comics one that sold for $6 million. So you're getting the different parts of collectibles. And in the categories, they've got auction stuff, card stuff, autograph stuff, tickets, game worn, and just general news. So it feels like they're going into a couple of these different categories. And so far, it appears that you do have access to actual articles so far without being behind a paywall, even though they're a lot like crazy long articles. It is still something. We'll reserve judgment, but I'll be curious to see, especially if they get some of the more hard-hitting things. A lot of these are kind of like more human interest pieces in the collectible space. I'd be curious to see what would happen if we start getting some of those, something similar like the card porn thing, like something along those lines where they're finding out, investigating something. If that would also be on the main page, or if that would be behind a paywall, or it'd be a mix and match. That's the part I'd be curious about. They do have ads and stuff, but I'll be curious what the profit model of this site is going to be, because I know they've got some investment, but I'm curious how that's going to be sustainable in the long run.
Well, I mean, it's got to be, kind of a slow news thing for them too, right? Hard to build a brand new website that's strictly news when, what are they sharing news about?
Well, basically hoping that Eric will make some really crazy decisions at Beckett, and we can get announcements of them.
We have some plans. I was thinking about making the grading standards for centering more like 80-20.
You know what would actually be more fun, Eric? I have a proposal. You can bring this to the next board meeting. I think instead of subgrades as they are today, I think the play is to start utilizing different types of symbols. Imagine if your subgrade for grading was pi.
Everyone likes pi.
Yeah. So you got that.
Or, I mean, I don't want to get too irrational here, but there's been such a high, prophecy and acceptance of Kurt's card care. Eric.
Yeah.
With your entitled leadership responsibilities at Beckett,
right,
merging along with your passion for knife collecting,
yes,
why don't you introduce the acceptance of the full service centering fixed through Beckett, to where you personally will use your sharpened blades to fix those centering problems and get them to their correct proportions?
Well, at Beckett, We take we take a little bit from the Because I'm Carlos podcast and Friday night show rules. And one of I think probably the number one rule here at Beckett is like maybe I think number 6 or so for the Because I'm Carlos show, and that is thou shalt not effort.
Okay.
So what you're coming up with here for us here at Beckett sounds like effort, and
I just thought it'd give you opportunity, not effort, but opportunity to play with your knife collection.
Yeah, I hear you. I appreciate it, but I'd have to bring the knives to the store, and it's just again effort.
What if we gamify it for you?
And
what if you bring the knife? What if you bring the knife and then someone in the store like throws it at you and you like wave your arms and it's like, how about you? And then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, again, throwing, that's a movement. We here at Beckett don't believe in doing that. We like to say as stationary as possible and do as little work as possible and make as little sense as possible. So, all these ideas that you're discussing, just it goes against our core principles here at Beckett.
Wait, so if lack of movement is one of the key tenets, have you considered the possibility that once somebody has an off-centering measurement, then every card going forward for the rest of time is like 70-30 centering?
That's what we believe in. We believe that a gem mint card should be, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, and that's gem mint. And that's why we're number one, because of our high standards.
Well, I can only imagine. Truthfully, I think at this point, with the high standards that have been set by Beckett, I think the only card that honestly would be worthy of a Black Label 10 would be something like a Reggie Lemon M&M Kraken card.
And,
just on principle.
And
principle alone.
I think you're right. And but to get a Black Label, one would have to break rule number 1, and that is to drive into Beckett headquarters on a Saturday, because that's when we do this. Grade it yourself. Give yourself the Black Label 10.
So they're going to have ATMs like another company had proposed?
Yeah, you can just go up to them, and you don't have to go into the headquarters. You just like go to your local grocery store, Keno bar, any type of.
What the hell is a Keno bar?
It's a little gambling.
A bar that has Keno, man. Listen, Eric. So I want to slowly wind us down towards the end of this.
I'm guessing they're in Peabody.
What I'm thinking now, as a final thought on this, maybe you get those portable grading units and you put one inside the liquor store. Maybe the Undertaker can come by and grade it for you while he's doing his business, in his hoodie. Yeah. And after he's done at Wrestlemania, he can go, and at the same time that he's pilfering, liquor for himself, allegedly, in his hoodie, he can also grade for you. You get a twofer.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. You get to meet the American Badass. Hopefully he doesn't, stab you or anything. He'll automatically grade your card, give it a gem mint 10 pristine. And
if you're good, maybe he'll offer you a drink.
Yeah, I think we're onto something here. And and that doesn't take a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's synergies, Eric. Synergies. I see synergies.
You'll go into the liquor store anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I could see it. You go into the gambling den or the liquor store anyway, so you might as well just get your card graded by Beckett while you're there. Saturday mornings is Black Label Saturdays.
Brandon, I think we fixed it.
That's how we do it here at Beckett.
We got there. Yeah. And I don't want to say that I now have multiple clips of Eric acknowledging that he's at Beckett, but now we at Beckett from Eric is now part of the vernacular.
Oh, most definitely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I think we'll wind down on that bombshell. Yep, I think we've done good work here, gentlemen. We've done. In fact, I dare
anyone
say,
notice the coincidence of the parallel running of the anniversaries too? Beckett's got the little 25 logo on their thing. Bruins had their 100-year box set thing. No shenanigans going on there.
I turned 50.
Yeah, see?
Wow. So it all comes up in 25s.
Yeah. I'm big on that.
Interesting. And on that bombshell, we have learned a lot this evening. So I want to thank Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards, and 540 Flips. And I want to thank the off-center Eric, who probably, honestly, this might be his best contributed episode. And I dare say, we were more effective at landing this plane in the final concluding moments than WrestleMania 40.
And you can't see anybody's bald spot.
And not only that, we got fireworks. So like WrestleMania 40, we even had pyro. We even had pyro in this episode.
No. Jeez. That was like celebratory.
That's what I mean. We had pyro. We were good to go, man. Like,
that was the entire Beckett marketing budget for the whole year.
Worth it. Worth it.
I hope so.
Why do you think we had to have the beardo and he was just standing? Look, by the way, he was just standing in front of a wall. They literally were recording this as like, we just got some wall here, like just stand in front of it, like say, here's a shirt, say some words.
Yeah.
I'm going too far with it.
Well, we're at the end, so go far. Go ahead. May as well.
It was like the t-shirt, player worn material where they have the guys put on a shit ton of jerseys. They just have a random shirt there for anybody that they put on the Instagram.
That's the office shirt. That is the
one shirt.
The budget only accounted for one shirt, and everybody has to stay around the same size to be able to wear the shirt.
Listen, we don't have a big budget. We were only able to afford one shirt.
They probably heat pressed it themselves, when got the cheapest t-shirt possible, just press the shit. It probably has nothing on the back, just the little B logo on the front.
That's all you can afford. Did you see?
Oh man!
If you were up at the expo, you would have saw that there wasn't many people in line. Okay, we can't afford t-shirts for everybody. We got one t-shirt.
But you have VHS grading. That was supposed to be the panacea that saved everything. What happened, Eric?
I had hoped.
You should have pitched the VHS grading more.
Yeah, well, we're gonna take another look at that, but it didn't work out quite the way I hoped.
I already forgot. Did they do beta? They should have done Betamax.
They do.
They do Betamax.
I actually have some that I need. I think so when Eric said grade, and I don't mean to extend this further, but when Eric says grading is a scam, I felt that market is just like the stupidest market to get graded. But then I found some at sales that were sealed copies of some rare tapes, movies, and they're in really good condition. And now it's got me like intrigued. Do I spend the money and get this shit graded?
No.
But if people are buying it,
no,
I'm not keeping it. I bought it to make money on it.
I think Eric has been. Look, Eric isn't saying great. So to be clear, this is our final thought here. I want you all to understand. So number one, we solved the mystery of the Beckett shirt, the one shirt they have.
One shirt.
So we solved that, and on top of that, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. This is almost as visionary as my WrestleMania 40 review, which, by the way, is the only correct review. All the other reviews are wrong. But the point is that I want to leave you on this thought. And this thought is this. Beckett is not actually in the business. And Eric already told you this. Off-center Eric already told you everything you need to know. Grading is not a scam. Yes. Beckett is going to start grading scams. That's what he's saying. He's saying that going forward, they have entered into a new service where they will evaluate the scam and they will assign it for subgrades. And the good news is you can get a 9.5 scam subgrade with 9 centering. Pretty sweet. Come on.
But
that's what he was saying this entire time. Brandon, he is saying Boo earns. He is saying Boo earns. We just weren't listening.
Yep.
Now you know.
Now you know. And knowing's half the battle.
And now, actually, on that bombshell, we're leaving. Eric, Sanderson to Orr, Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards and 540 Flips. Enough of this bullshit. See you all next week.